Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good evening. Good yourself?
Great.
Evening.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Same to you.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday to you all.
Yeah, happy Friday. We are starting here shortly. I kindly hold on.
Yeah, Doc, before you start, good evening to you all. Um,
Evening.
there was a heavy hurricane that destroyed power and internet here in southern part of Georgia, and so currently I'm on 15% of uh, my phone battery. And so if you lost me, that is why I don't have power, I don't have internet.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
I heard there's a really bad hurricane going on in the Georgia area.
Yes. Yes.
All right. All right. So, I mean, if you miss any of these, you can get the replay on YouTube. It's being
Sure.
streamed live on YouTube, and you're also going to get the recording posted. So,
Okay.
either way, you're still going to have access to it. All right, everyone. I appreciate everybody's time. So we are starting time now. You are welcome to Eretmis Cyber Chat. We do this every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. And like I always say, it's Friday night. You could have been anywhere doing a whole bunch of other stuff, but you chose to be here to share in the knowledge and to develop yourself as a security professional. And I appreciate that. So we are going to get started. Tonight is a very important and interesting topic in the security space, and we are going to look at it from a very broken down perspective, right? As to what we mean by security models. So we are going to look at top 10 security models. We probably look at a little bit more uh, than 10, right? But let's get started. So you are welcome to Eretmis Cyber Chat. This is being brought to you by Eretmis Academy. And Eretmis Academy is a cybersecurity institute based in New York. And we, teach a whole range of cybersecurity courses. So for folks who are trying to get into the cybersecurity industry, if you're an absolute beginner, if you're already in the industry, there is something for everyone. So go to our website, eretmisacademy.com. We have a bunch of free courses over there that you can try your hands on and see if that is a good fit for you. And about myself, I'm going to be your only pilot for tonight. I'm Dr. Emmanuel Edu, former United States Army captain. I'm the CEO of Eretmis Inc., a PCI QSA company and a cybersecurity company also based in New York, the founder of Eretmis Academy, a former professor at University of Maryland Global Campus and CTC, and I'm a member of the Forbes Technology Council. I've been a member for a while. I keep even forgetting I'm a member, right? So I decided to put that on there. Now for Eretmis, we are a CompTIA partner, and what that means is that for everyone on here and for Eretmis family members who want to sit for any CompTIA security, any CompTIA certification, there's a bunch of folks who've been going through to take advantage of the 20% discount that CompTIA affords to us, and we in turn, give to our Eretmis community. So you reach out to us, and we purchase the voucher on your behalf to get the 20% discount. And for folks who already have Security Plus, CISSP, and others, uh, every 3 years you're supposed to renew your certification. And one way that you can go about renewing your certification is to either sit for the exam again or to do what we call continuous educational points. So for continuous educational points for everybody on here tonight, if you put Team Live, just type Team Live, hashtag Team Live in the chat and take a screenshot of that. That will count as 1 point for your continuous educational points. And depending on the certification, some of them they need 50 points, some of them they need 20 points. So depending on the type of certification you are trying to renew. So that is how you go about renewing your certification without actually sitting for the exam. Now we have a WhatsApp group. So for everyone on here, if you're not already part of the Eretmis WhatsApp group. You can join. The link will be posted as we are going through tonight's session. So, and also for our YouTube channel, everything that we are doing is being transmitted on the YouTube channel live. You can also go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Everything that we've done Cyber Chat so far over the years, they are all on YouTube, so you'll be able to have access to it. So kindly go ahead, support the YouTube channel and help spread the word. There is a lot of really good info on the YouTube channel for everyone. So with that, we are going to jump into our cyber news. So we are going to be looking at one cyber news, and then we'll jump into our top 10 cybersecurity models that we are going to be looking at for tonight. So October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. October is also Dr. Edu's birth month. So which is that kind of explains Dr. Edu's involvement in cybersecurity. So October is our Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and Eretmis every October. So the Security Awareness Month and Dr. Edu's birthday, we offer a big sale. So that is coming soon. So just be on the lookout for that. And with that, we are jumping into our cyber news. So if you have any cyber news, kindly hold on. Once we are done with this one, we open the floor. You can raise your virtual hand, and you also, share your cyber news with everyone. So guess who is in the news tonight? So AI in the news, but AI, not AI itself, but companies who are riding on the AI hype and deceiving customers. They are being chased by FTC. So FTC is on a crackdown on companies abusing the AI hype. AI became the buzzword in the past 2 years. Everybody is wants to have something to do with AI. So some companies are using that to mislead consumers and customers. And FTC, they're actually prosecuting, or they've taken like 3 companies to court already. We are not going to go through all those companies and the details of it, but we are just going to give just an overview of what is going on. That way you are going to be aware. So there are companies who are posing to be an AI lawyer. So they have an AI that is going to help you everything with your lawyer needs, but there is no lawyer in the company to actually have any oversight or to give the inputs. There are some companies that are portraying that they will use AI to help you make passive income. And what they are literally doing is they are just setting up an Amazon account for you, and then you still have to pay and purchase goods and services for them to place in your Amazon like delivery, setup. So they are not using AI to do anything. It's just a marketing gimmick. That is what they are using, and that is what FTC is, cracking down on. So anything that is AI related, that is tricking or misleading or defaulting or defrauding consumers, that is what they are chasing. So currently they've brought 5 companies to the books. They are in court currently. There are a bunch of cases, but we don't have the time to go through each single one of them. So, but they are really cracking down on companies that are misleading consumers about the use of AI. And the goal of doing this is to actually make sure that the companies that are actually being innovative and using AI to solve problems, they have a fair share, right, of actually doing honest business and helping consumers, rather than the ones who are just riding on the hype of AI and promising, all sort of things with AI, which is not, what they are promising. So AI in the news, FTC helping to sanitize the AI ecosystem to make sure malicious companies who are just chasing your money and using AI as, the bait, they are taking off the market. And there is a whole lot of them. I think FTC, they are going to have like a very tough time trying to crack down on all these companies because there's a whole bunch of them out there, right? So with that, we are going to leave the floor for anyone with cyber news for tonight, you can raise your virtual hand, and then I think one company was fined, Meta, Facebook. Meta was fined 100 million thereabout for some data breach that happened in 2019. That is also there, and there's a whole bunch of others out there. But I thought the AI one was something that everybody can take something from to protect themselves, right? So if there are no cyber news from the audience, we are going to go ahead and move on to what we are going to discuss tonight. So we are going to look at models. Now, in different fields of study, in different areas, there are models. We use models, right? And what are models? What do we use them for? To the whole entire group, if you raise your virtual hand, if you are in a field that you use models and different types of models for whatever you do, you can raise your virtual hand and let us know what is your experience with using models, or what do you think a model is? Just give it a shot. For a model, when we say model or models or model, uh, what comes to mind? Anyone? Yes, go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, you saw me went on mute. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I think a model is a form of structured framework, which is like a guideline for securing our system, which could be like the NIST CFS or zero trust model.
But in everyday life, what is a model?
Hi, Dr. Adil. Let me try to answer this question. A model is like a prototype. An everyday, like it could be a template. You look up to someone and you follow that model. Things of that nature of an everyday life. But in cybersecurity, I'm not sure what it is.
Okay. Good try. Eliko, please go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so when I think about a model, I have to start from the part of where a theory is established, meaning rules that appear to define a way or some kind of truth. And therefore, based on the theory, then we develop a model that can guide either a practice, system, and I'm looking at it from a research perspective.
Okay. Yes. Very true. There are two hands up. But I think maybe probably they agree with Eliku. So, Manila, please go ahead.
A model is a system of things that can be used as an example to follow or imitate.
True. So, for all the examples that have been given and the definitions, yes, on the right path. So, let's say, since Eliku was answered this, Eliku wants to build a house, right? Consult an architect together with maybe an engineer. They can do something like a 3D model of how the house is going to look like, something of this nature, show you where everything is going to be. So you kind of have a visual of, and a very good concept, very good idea of how it is going to look like it is going to look like. Right now, that is for the customer. For the engineers and for the architect, it helps them also to make sense of where everything is going to fit and how, that's like the whole entire building is going to work or function effectively. Right now, there are models for if we want to build a city. When Dubai was building Dubai, right, they were building it as it is now. They will first design it, right, and then they will come up with something. Okay, this is how we want it to look like. So a model type of like a prototype, like Alex said, right? And for some cities, when you go there, they have like models like this of the actual city, and you can see, just looking at it, you can, pinpoint all the major areas in the city. Now, aside buildings and uh, houses and cities and uh, bridges and the rest. Now, there's also another good example, right, of a model, like a model city. Now, for cars, we also, they come up with, they will first do the models, right? First start with maybe a wooden type, build it up to this stage, and build like a real size type to make sure everything, how they've pictured it, the doors are opening like how it's supposed to. And they'll go through all that before they build the actual car or the actual product, right? So, they might start with something like this and build it all the way to what we saw, right? So models, you are thinking right. Now, when it comes to cybersecurity models, they are not that fancy like the ones we saw and, not that pretty. Like you can see your house, you can see the car. This is how cybersecurity models look like, right? Just showing arrows and direction, and this has to go here, and this can't go here, and that can't go there, right? But there is a science to that, and it also makes sense from the security perspective. And there is for every model, there is an ideology behind it, right? Why we are pushing that agenda, right? So there is something behind every model when it in the security space. Same like for all the different areas of life that we've just looked at, right? So for a security model, it looks something like this, and then also something like this, right? And there are a lot of security models that we are going to be looking at, right? So we will first start with what a model is and build our case all the way to security to make it make more sense, right? So like the examples and the definitions that we give, a model, whether it's a model for a car, a house, or security, it is a structured approach for us to understand, to design, and to manage complex systems that we are going to put together, right? So regardless of the context, whether in the housing side or in the auto industry, they have the following similarities, right? Fundamental similarities. So we get a blueprint for understanding and designing. Uh, it is also, we get a purpose-driven structure, guidelines and specifications. We also get implementation and adaptation guidelines as well. Risk management at the model stage is where we are able to, uh, come up with the different types of possible risks and also come up with remediation strategies to really bring it down. And then also evaluation and testing. We test our models and make sure they work before we actually produce it or put it on a production line. So we are going to look at the context from the auto industry, the housing, and the cybersecurity side, looking at it from these different topics, and then we will jump into our cybersecurity models, right? So for the session of we having a blueprint for understanding and designing, our model helps us to do this. In the auto industry, the design and the structure of the vehicle, including components like engine and everything, we are going to work on it in the models stage, and it'll help us to visualize and actually make sure that what the idea that we have for the engine is actually going to work like it's supposed to, right? Now, in the housing side, same thing. We are going to be able to lay out, have a good, visualization of the rooms, electrical, wiring, plumbing, how everything is going to work. So any problems that we're going to encounter, we'll be able to fix it and make sure our model works well before we move into the actual production, right? In the cybersecurity side, the model provides a conceptual framework so now we are just using framework loosely here, conceptual framework for securing our information security systems, our data and everything by defining the security controls, protocols, and things that we are supposed to use to protect ourselves from threats, right? Now, when it comes to the purpose-driven side of it, for the auto industry side, for the housing side, they all follow the same format. We are just going to jump into the security side. So for the security side, the purpose for models that we come up in the security side is to ensure that we are enforcing confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right, of data and systems. So all the different models that we have in security, we can place them under one of these three major areas of security, right? So that is the aim. Now, when it comes to the vehicle side, it has to operate efficiently, safely, and all that. For the housing side, we have to make sure our house, it is structured, like the structure can, hold its own weight. It is functional. It's not going to pose any safety risks to occupants, right? So you see the similarities when it comes to models. We are doing these comparisons for it to make more sense. Sometimes when we just approach it from IT, cybersecurity side, it becomes a bit more abstract. You are not able to appreciate, it well. But if we are doing this comparative analysis, you'll be able to see, okay, on the auto side is this and the housing side, so we have a better appreciation of it, right? So because just when we saw the diagrams for models, the cybersecurity one kind of looked a bit dry, right? There's some, sticks and figures, but the one for building and for cars, they are pretty okay. You can see this is the car. So same way when it comes to explaining and breaking it down, if we don't do a very good comparative analysis, it becomes a bit dry. So hopefully you are able to appreciate this. Now for guidelines and specifications, same thing for your car model. There are dimensions for the material, for the assembly process, for the engine specification, safety, and all that. For housing, same thing. Construction, materials to be used, the thickness, the dimensions for slabs and columns and others, insulation. When it comes to cybersecurity, we define the security policies, the access control rules, the processes, and the technology that we are going to use. The guidelines and specification aspect of models helps us to do that, right? What type of encryption we are going to use and all that. Now, with the implementation and adaptation, now for the models that we come up with in the auto industry, in the housing industry, the best part about it is a model, right? We can, and the model is not, it is what we are starting off with. We can adjust and we can add to it to fit, our other needs. So for example, we can come up with a model for a car, right? The same model, we can do an electric version, we can do a hybrid version or a sports version, right? When it comes to the housing side, the model was maybe a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom. We can decide to convert the basement to also, a full-blown apartment, right? And add more stuff to it. So we started off with a model, but we are adding to it. We are customizing it, right? Same thing with cybersecurity models. We can customize it also as well to fit organizational needs, to fit regulatory compliance needs, to fit the threat landscape as well. So hopefully you are appreciating this. So all models, they are not, static. They are not set in stone. We can always start off with a model and then tweak it to fit our needs within our organization. Then when it comes to the risk management side, in all the different areas where we use models, the model helps us to identify potential risks and to come up with mitigation strategies to help, reduce that. Now, on the security side, our model helps us to identify, because each of these models, they are tackling either confidentiality, integrity, or availability, helping us to enforce it. So any anything that will pose a threat to, the implementation of the model, we will be able to identify ahead of time and come up with the compensation, the mitigation strategy or compensating controls as we are applying these models. So when it comes to evaluation and testing, also on the car side, they do testing, crash tests and all that. On the building side, also, they do testing for structural integrity and others. On the security side, we also do testing, pen testing. You do your audits, simulations, and all that helps us to for stress testing when it comes to software development and all other type of tests. That helps us to really push the model that we've put in place to see if it really works, right? And how well it is going to protect us against threats that are out there. Now, we are going to jump into the 10 cybersecurity models that we are going to be looking at. And we will start off with what is a cybersecurity model. So from the definition that we gave for what a general model is, we can just take that and extract our cybersecurity model out of that, right? So for cybersecurity models, they are theoretical frameworks or structured approach to how, kindly give me a second, to how we handle security, right? So the model will help us to, define what we are going to do in governance, define what we are going to do under access management, what we are going to do under cryptography. So it helps us to have a better understanding of all aspects of security, right? So I know there is the phrase or the word framework here. We are going to discuss framework and models. I mean, what really is the difference between the two, right? So for models, they are models. Models are not very extensive as a framework. Now, for using theoretical framework as part of the definition, when we pick out just cybersecurity frameworks are more extensive than models, right? So I remember, I think somebody was given a definition and they said the NIST cybersecurity framework. The NIST cybersecurity framework goes beyond a model, right? It's a whole framework on its own. So models, when we jump into the different aspects of models, some frameworks we kind of can consider them under models, but models frameworks are more extensive than models, right? Models are kind of just straightforward, giving us a structure. Okay, this is how we are going to do this, and then that is it. For frameworks, it goes way beyond that. It tells you exactly what you are going to do step by step, right? So that is the difference between the two. Now, for definition purposes, we are just using framework as you can also call it a conceptual structure that we are going to use or that we use when we talk about cybersecurity models, right? So the models, they help outline principles and guidelines for ensuring that security is enforced in terms of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So, and like I said, we saw that we can implement and we can also tweak it to fit organizational needs, and that is the beauty about models. Now, for models, how did we start off with, or how did it come about in security, right? What were some of the first models that came out and which ones helped to develop other ones to all the way to what we have today, right? So cybersecurity models, they've been around since, the evolution of computer security and information security way back in the 80s, coming all the way to today, right? And they've been evolving over time, right? As technology is evolving, as security is evolving, as we are becoming more connected with the inception of the internet, and as we are becoming one big network in the whole entire world, security models have also developed to match the threat landscape. And we are going to look at some of the historical models all the way up to what we have today. So in the 90s and the early 60s and the 70s, the first model, now it's time to be corrected, maybe probably somebody can find something older than this, was the multi-plugged information and computer services project. So this was a project that was put together by MIT, Bell Labs, and General Electric, and the goal was to come up with a secured operating system, right? So this is the first model that we know in the security space, right? If maybe probably there are standards to be created, there is probably something earlier than that, right? So the idea here was that they use levels like security levels to control access, and then also this laid the framework for other models that came later on. Now, 1971, they developed access control metrics, which was a build up on the old, the very first one that we just looked at, right? So, and these two models, their focus was on access control and building secured operating systems. So, for like back in those days, access control was almost pretty much it for security, right? But as we are developing, it is becoming more complex than just access control. So in 71, they came up with this. Butler was the one who developed this, and then we moved from the access control metrics to the 70s. So past the early 70s, going down 72, 73, there was the Bell LaPadula model. And for folks who've written CISSP, or if you are looking to write CISSP, you have to be familiar with security models, especially Bell LaPadula and BIBA, right? And other ones that we are going to be looking at. CISSP covers this extensively. So for their exams, at least you're going to have 4 or 5 questions on security models. So Bell LaPadula was developed by David Bell and Leonard LaPadula, right? And the focus was on confidentiality. And this is widely used in the military. So because we have a lot of models, we are not going to go in depth into each single one of it. Maybe some cybersecurity, some cyber chats down the line, we can do that. But we are just going to give like a snapshot of what these models are used for. So Bell LaPadula, the main focus is on confidentiality. And we will look at the models based on the categorization that we came up with, right? So all the models that focus on confidentiality, we're going to talk about them. All the ones that focus on integrity, we will talk about them. So this one, Bell LaPadula, you have to know, is one of the popular ones in the security space, right? Now, and one thing that you have to know about Bell LaPadula is no read up, no write down, right? No read up, no write down. So the goal here is depending on the level that you are or your level of access, if you don't have access to something above you, you cannot read anything that is above your level of access. And also for anybody up, if you are at a higher level of access, you cannot write, or you cannot send any information down, because the idea is you are going to contaminate yourself, right? So we can get into the details of this, maybe some cyber chats down the line. Now, the next popular one is BIBA integrity model. So as the name suggests, is for integrity, right? So one of the tricks when it comes to exams, like security exams, is they trick you to see whether you know which of these is for integrity, which of these is for confidentiality. So Bell LaPadula, BIBA. So BIBA is for integrity. And the goal here, this was to counter Bell LaPadula, right? So it focuses on integrity rather than on confidentiality. And here also, what you have to know is no write up and no read down. So for Bell LaPadula, is no read up, no write down. But here is the other way around, no write up and no read down, right? So we can get into the details of that later on, but that is what you have to know about these two popular models, right? Now we are going to look at in the 80s, they came up with Clark-Wilson model, and this was developed by mostly their names. We use their names to label the models that they came up with, right? This was where separation of duties and principle of least privilege was really brought to the forefront, right? So this model also focuses on integrity, right? It was developed for designed for commercial environments addressing different shortcomings of other models. So mostly we come up with new models to make up for shortcomings of other models, right? And then we have the Chinese wall model that came up in 1989. That was also by Brewer and Nash. So the goal for this one was also to build up on ones like Bell LaPadula. So it is the goal is to help enforce confidentiality, right? Like these are models and they are concepts and they are theoretical concepts. So you have to follow it as it is, right? It gets a bit dry, so you just have to follow it as it is. Now, when we get into the details of it, which we are not going to do tonight, there will be diagrams and stuff for us to, go through and help you to understand it better. But it is to serve as a guide, right? So just to influence your thinking in terms of setting up security for your organization, right? So this is not something as concrete as a framework, right? A framework just gives you a checklist of things you have to do. You go step by step. But models, really, for their application, it is to influence your thinking, right? How you are going to come up with ideas and concepts. So this helps to guide you, right? So it gets a bit dry, but we just have to follow it as it is, right? So in the early 90s coming down, that is where we came up with role-based access control model, right? So when we do identity and access management, we talk about role-based, rule-based, and others. But actually, when it comes to models, role-based access control is also a model, right? Also proposed by David and Richard. And this has become widely used in the security space. And the goal is to enforce confidentiality, right? And then we have Harrison Ruza model that also came in 1990. And the goal here is also to help enforce confidentiality as well, right? So this is an extension of the access control metrics model that we talked about earlier. So this is in the 90s. Now coming down to 2000s, advanced and conceptual models that we have today. So attribute-based access control model, also one of the very popular ones that are out there. Now, the goal here is we grant access also in the space of confidentiality. Anything that has to do with access control falls under the space of confidentiality. So the goal here is we are going to enforce access based on the attribute of whoever the subject is, right? So based on, your role, it can be your role, your location, a whole list of other attributes that can help us to grant you access. Now, non-interference model is also one of the popular ones that came up in the 2000s. And the goal here is to enforce integrity, to make sure that, the different levels of operations or the different levels of clearance in the organization, they don't, one does not really affect the other, right? So if you're at a higher level of security, your actions do not interfere with the lower level security or operations. And then we have the 2010s. We have the lattice-based access control, and this is similar to also enforcing confidentiality, but here we are using layers of privilege as well. So layers of privilege, like we have in the military side, we have secret, top secret, clearance and all that. So this is just to this is an improvement on the access control metrics model also as well. And then we have ISO 20701 and the other frameworks. Now, for ISO 20701 is a framework, right? Not necessarily a model, but sometimes from where we are looking at it from, and for what we want to use it for, ISMS, which is ISO 20701, we can also consider it to be a model as well, right? So with that, we are going to move into other models that are in development and other ones that might come up in the future. So simply put, like we saw from historically coming from the 60s all the way till today, these models, they are improvement on each other. And we come up with different models to augment the other ones and the shortfalls of the others. Now, with technological advancement, with the threat landscape, we are coming up with, new concepts and new models. So like security trust is one of the models. And we have to plan for AI, come up with a model that will help us take care of everything AI, cloud security as well. So we are going to always have new models being like people coming up with new developments in terms of models. But what you have to do as a security professional is to first understand what we have already, right? And like I said, for models, the intent is to influence how you think and how you perceive security. So you always have something to go off on to build your security structure, to build your security strategy, right? So that is the goal of a model, right? So with that, we are going to jump into the top 10 that we are going to look at. But like I said earlier, October is Security Awareness Month, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And we have our big October sale coming up. So be on the lookout for it. Now, for folks who are looking to jump into cybersecurity and to become security professionals, working from home, making six figures, and all the good stuff, our cybersecurity entry-level course is going to be the bridge between where you are and where you can get on the other side of security, working as a full-blown security professional. There's a very comprehensive course for folks who are on here who've taken it already, are working, making six figures and more. They can attest to this, right? So jump into this. This comes with an internship as well, and hands-on training where you get to work with the tools. And we take you all from zero. You don't need IT background, cybersecurity background to begin your journey as a security professional, right? For folks already in IT, in the cybersecurity field, our payment security compliance program is where you can specialize to become a PCI DSS subject matter expert and help companies secure their payment channels and also to secure credit card and debit card they are receiving from their customers. And this is one of the most lucrative niches in the cybersecurity space. So we encourage you to, hop onto this one. We do live sessions. This also comes with internship as well. So if you are looking to specialize in any area of security, I encourage you to look into the payment security side of cybersecurity. And now for folks who've already gone through some cybersecurity training, you are stuck in the knowledge piece of cybersecurity. You are looking to bridge that gap and get your hands dirty working on some projects, real world projects, actually getting to know how the work is done in the security space. We encourage you to jump into our cybersecurity internship and workshop, right? We have folks who are already working in the industry who jump onto this because they want to really polish up their skills when it comes to doing cybersecurity jobs. So folks who are joining this, we started our new cohort last week, Saturday. But that was an introduction, so there is still time for you to join. We are going to meet tomorrow as well, break up the whole entire group, interns into groups, and they'll be assigned to different companies. And we are going to start working on different security projects, 10 major security projects, from doing audits, incident response, risk assessment, third party. We do everything GRC and beyond, right? So everything on the blue side, we are going to make sure you have the confidence to be able to work anywhere that you find yourself as a security professional, right? So if you did RMF, you did some training elsewhere, and you are not confident that you can do a job when you are given the chance, then jump onto this before you go to an interview and you have nothing to say, right? You can, during interviews, they don't want to know what you can memorize or what you can recite. They want to know what you've done in security, projects you've worked on, and how you'll be able to help their company move from point A to point B, right? So with that, we are going to jump into the top 10 models. And with the top 10 models, this is how we are going to look at it. We've categorized it into groups based on confidentiality, integrity, and availability and access control, and also based on environmental and need, organizational need, right? So this is going to be the categories under which we are going to look at the models, and we will first look at confidentiality models. We will look at integrity models. We will look at access control models. We will look at dynamic and evolutionary access models, and then state-based and behavioral models, and then we'll look at organizational and framework models and conflict of interest models, right? So there's a lot of models. There's way more than what we are going to talk about. The intent here is to start the conversation, right? For folks who were totally not aware or they didn't know, this was a thing in security, this is to help you start digging more into it and polishing up more on it, right? In the future, we are going to come up with another cyber chat where we are going to dive deep into at least pick 5 of these and go really deep into them. But for now, this is to start the conversation. So for the first model that we are going to look at is confidentiality models, models that are used to enforce confidentiality. Like I said, and I keep saying, the intent of models is to help really help with your thinking, help with how you look and approach security, right? So confidentiality models, if you are doing anything confidentiality in the security space, you want to enforce confidentiality, you can draw from any of these models or use a combination of any of them, right? So for these models, the focus is to prevent sensitive information from unauthorized access and to ensure data confidentiality. That is the simple focus of these models. Now, the models that we are going to look at under confidentiality, Bell LaPadula 1. So Bell LaPadula enforces confidentiality. It has no read up, no write down rule. So that is the rule for Bell LaPadula. Now, for the Chinese wall, prevents conflict of interest. So it could have also been under the conflict of interest, but we placed it under the confidentiality because it is also restricting access on user activity history, based on user activity history. Now, Brewer and Nash model dynamically restricts and prevents conflict of interest, but it's also preventing access. So we place it under confidentiality as well. The letters-based access control. So for all the access control ones, they should come under confidentiality, but some of them we also place under other categories because it fits there as well. So this also uses levels to manage your access within the organization, right? Like I said, we can go in depth into all these, but tonight was just to introduce you into the models. Now we have the multi-level security model. This model also helps control access based on multiple data sensitivity levels, right? So that is for confidentiality models. Now we are going to look at integrity models. For integrity models, we have the goal here is to prevent any unauthorized change when it comes to our data or in our systems. So only authorized, access and changes are going to be allowed. So the models that will help us to really enforce integrity, BIBA model. So BIBA integrity model, it maintains data integrity. And the rule here is no write up, no read down, right? So for everybody, dig into this and, go read more about this rule, no write up, no read down. How does it make sense? How do we apply it? So the implementation of all these models, we are not going to talk about today because of time, right? Now we are going to jump into the next one. That is the Clark-Wilson model. Also to help, this is what really brought separation of duties to the forefront. So it really brought up separation of duties to help ensure integrity. Now Graham model that also manages complex access rights to maintain integrity. of data operation, and this also falls under integrity. Information flow model also falls under integrity models. It ensures data flow between entities, follow defined security protocols or defined security policies to prevent data leakages and modifications. And with that, we are going to move into our access control models. So for the access control models, there's a whole list of it, right? It started with the very traditional one, access control metrics model, that uses the metrics format to represent and manage permissions. Then we jumped into the role-based access control model, and that also assigns permission based on your role in the organization. And then we look at the attribute-based, that also assign access based on an attribute, which can be anything from your location, the system you are using, your role within the organization, a rule that we will preset, right? So for attribute based, it can be anything, right? And then we have mandatory based model, which also uses it's like a centralized authority. So for mandatory based, owners of systems will no, for discretionary owners of systems will grant you access based on their discretion. But for mandatory based, they also use objects and subjects, right? So if you have the same level of permissions with an object as a subject, you'll be able to have access to it, right? So it also kind of ties a little bit into the metrics type of, right? And then also Bell LaPadula and no, Bell LaPadula and like the principle here follows what Bell LaPadula is also using, sort of, right? So for and also for like on the military side, when you have your like security levels, security clearance levels, mostly mandatory access control is what comes to mind. So that is what we use to enforce that also as well. Right. So we are going to look at dynamic and evolutionary access models. So with this, the goal here is also to enforce integrity and confidentiality to a degree. So to ensure overall security within your environment that you are going to be working in. So we have the Harrison model. And then we have the take grant model. So the take grant model is part of the very old ones, like Bell LaPadula and the rest that we looked at. And for the Harrison model, it analyzes changes in access rights and also manages secure modifications as well. And for the take grant model, it also helps us with access as well. So how to transfer access between users and then also create, delete, grant permissions when it comes to access is a take grant model, right? So with that, we are going to look at state-based and behavioral-based. Now, with state-based and behavioral-based, mostly for behavioral-based, that is what AI that we have we've developed that all the way to what we have today as AI, right? If you remember, if you know your firewalls well, we have stateful firewalls, stateless firewalls. All those those concepts were all concepts from these models, right? So for our state-based, behavioral-based models, the underlying tone is to enforce confidentiality. So these models, for state-based, we set the rules for behavioral. The system will be able to at least, based on information that we've given it, prior information we've given it, it will be able to decide on its own what is good and what is bad, right? So for state machine models represents system security as secure state transition. And then for non-interference model, these are the two models under the state-based and behavioral-based. It also prevents action at higher level from influencing those at lower level as well. So these we talked about earlier when we looked at the history, right? So, I mean, as we are going through, there is a lot that we are going through, but I encourage everyone to, dig into this. This should start the conversation. So for organizational models and frameworks, now the very one of the very traditional, we are now, these ones are more frameworks than models, right? But we still kind of push them under models. Now, Zachman framework, mostly you wouldn't hear about it now, but Zachman framework, if you dig really into the knowledge piece of cybersecurity and the theoretical aspect of cybersecurity, this was the foundation for most of the things that we do today, right? So it's a really structured approach to enterprise architecture, including security, right? So dig into this also as well if this is the first time of you hearing about this. And then we have almighty ISMS or ISO 20701. This is a full-fledged framework, more than a model, right? For the models that we looked at, all the models that we looked at, to read about them, I mean, there are extensive material about to read about it, but we can summarize it in a paragraph. For a framework, we cannot summarize a framework in a paragraph, right? Because frameworks, they come with their controls, a whole bunch of controls. They come with their goals. They come with requirements, right? So to summarize it, we can say this framework is for this, but to really understand what it's about is going to be more extensive than your typical model, right? So conflict of interest models, we have the Chinese wall and we have the Brewer-Nash model. So the Chinese wall, it also falls under confidentiality. It helps to prevent conflict. It helps to manage our access control, prevent unauthorized users from having access to our data. And for the Brewer-Nash, it also does the same. It restricts access and prevents unauthorized use also as well. So those ones, these are the two that will fall under the conflict of interest. And we are done with our top 10. We like what we saw was a little bit more than top 10, but that is going to be our top 10 cybersecurity models. Now, this is to start the conversation, right? This is to start the conversation. So there is a lot, and the goal is to expose you to all these models. And as you are digging into it, you're really going to understand and appreciate security well. And before we, jump into questions and answers, next month, which is going to be next week, this upcoming week, October, is going to be our cybersecurity awareness month. It's cybersecurity awareness month for the whole world, not just Eretmis. And we're going to have our big sale coming up. And for folks looking to jump into security, our cybersecurity entry-level course is where to be. That is help you to bridge the gap between where you are to where you can start working as a security professional. And for folks already in cybersecurity, you can jump into our PCI DSS course to specialize as a PCI DSS professional. And then for those who've done courses here and there, who've done self-study, but you are lacking the hands-on, how the work is done, you are not able to speak to projects you've worked on during interviews, then you have to jump into our cybersecurity GRC internship and workshop. This will really help you to gain the skills, the real world hands-on experience that employers are looking for to be able to help land your first or second or third cybersecurity role, right? And for our WhatsApp group, kindly, we are going to post the link. You can join our WhatsApp group. And now we are going to open the floor for questions. You can kindly, raise your virtual hand. And if there is any model that we didn't mention that you've seen somewhere, or if you took any certification exam and you came across any model and you think is worth sharing, you can also bring it up. So we are about to wrap up. And for folks, if you didn't put into the chat where you're joining us from and team live, kindly do and take a screenshot and save it because you are going to need it. You are going to need it. I can tell you that you are going to need it. So kindly do so. So if there are any questions, you can kindly bring it up as we are about to wrap up and take some questions for the models that we looked at. So hopefully everybody learned something new tonight. Any comments or questions on the models that we looked at? All right. So whilst we are waiting for questions, we have Nicole joining us from Atlanta. Michael, Vancouver, Canada. Fred from San Antonio, Texas. Elico joining us from Lake Bluff. And we have Adrian from Tucson, Arizona. Oh, Adrian, you are still in the States. I thought you left already. Okay. And we have a lot of team lives in here. Great. Oh, there are some comments from Mark on role-based attribute. And okay, great. Lawrence from the Bronx, Finland. Yao from Finland. Okay. Great. What time is it in Finland? We have George from Ghana. Ben from Dallas, Texas. Henry from Dallas, Japan. We have Jason from Japan. Good morning, Jason. Mark from Boston. Lavette from MD, and Reginald from Dallas. And I appreciate Felix Dallas and Sandra from New Jersey. I appreciate everybody's time. Now, any questions on our discussion for tonight before we wrap up? Wrapping up a bit early, but that way you can go about your weekend. So this was pretty, models are pretty dry, but the idea is to get the concept and to know they are there in the security space to help you as a security professional. So if you are sitting for a certification exam or on the job, if you have to plan or you are a part of a group that has to come up with a security structure for a company from scratch, this is not going to be new to you. Go ahead, Samuel.
Yeah, Doc. Yeah, I have a question. I don't know whether this makes sense. So what does CMMC model? Because CMMC is Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Does it fall under any of this model?
So CMMC is a framework.
It's a
right?
framework.
Just
Okay.
Yeah, it's a framework like NIST Cybersecurity Framework, ISO 27701,
Okay.
controls, right? HIPAA,
Okay.
right? So, and that was what I was talking about. With frameworks and models, they're a bit different. Although we threw in the ISO 27701, but ISMS is it's kind of like a concept, right? They've developed it into a framework, but it's more like a concept also as well. So that is why it kind of fits. It's probably the only framework that will fit within that space, right? But the other CMMC, NIST cybersecurity, and all the NIST frameworks, they are full-fledged frameworks. For the concepts, for the models, they are concepts, right? Although we can argue these frameworks, they also follow certain concepts. But for the models, they are just, like I said, you can write the models in a paragraph.
Okay.
So that is to influence how you think about security, right? And more on the strategic point. But for frameworks, you have to you have to stay in compliance with these frameworks and applying it and doing an audit with it. You cannot do an audit with a model, right?
Okay.
But you do an audit with a framework.
With a framework. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but this is the first time hearing about this. Oh, this model. Yeah. I mean, like the Pedula, whatever the name is. This is a no read, no
Pedula and Biba, and yes.
Yeah. This is the first time hearing about no read. I've never heard about it anywhere. No read, whatever. I'm not on my. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. So frankly, what we looked at is more at advanced security level.
Okay.
So this is not entry level stuff or even intermediate. You wouldn't hear about this.
You wouldn't hear about it. Yeah. It's true.
So that is why it is good to join Cyber Chat every Friday.
Yep.
To learn something new, or at least, get to know, okay, this is there, right? Security is very vast. It's very broad. So whatever there is always something outside what you know that you should be, looking out for.
All right. Thanks. I'm gonna do more research about that. Thank you.
All right. Great. So that is the intent for everybody to dig more into this.
Right.
All right. Any more questions on this before we wrap up for tonight.
Hey, Dr. Edu, I have a question, but I can't raise my hand.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Can we safely say that a framework can include different models? Because it looks like when we take, for example, HIPAA, in HIPAA we have access control things in it and role-based in it. While those are specific models, can we say that framework includes models?
Yeah, so frameworks you cannot come up with a framework without, picking 2 or 3 models and using them in there. Right. So some of these models, we've borrowed them to add to what we will call best practices in the security space. And for the frameworks that we use is a combination of most of the best practices that are out there, being tailored towards a specific goal of protecting something, right? So every framework has a goal behind it. HIPAA, the goal is to protect health information, data, and also systems that are used to handle health data, right? For PCI, the goal is to protect credit card, debit card data, and systems used to do that, right? So in order to do the protection, we have to borrow from some of these models, right? So yes, every framework will have a bunch of these models in there. All right. So hopefully I'm not confusing everyone and you didn't get too much confused. But the goal is for you to start the conversation here, right? So okay, and there's a question in there. What should we watch out for? Oh, so we are going to send out the October offer on all the platforms, so you'll be able to see it. Right. All right. Geoffrey, please go ahead. Oh, you are muted if you're trying to speak still.
Oh, okay, here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. I was thinking, and about the models, and in a normal cybersecurity setup, I know you can mix and match frameworks to provide a better CIA for a company. But how about the models? Is there any instance where you can mix and match cybersecurity models for a particular company?
Yes. So like we saw, there are different use cases for the models. We have some that are used to enforce confidentiality. Some are used to enforce integrity. Some are used to enforce availability, and a combination of both, right? So you can always combine. In security, there is always that opportunity for you to stack up different concepts and different theories and models to help you achieve the overall goal of mitigating risks.
Like defense in depth, like we have
Yes.
in defense in depth.
Yes. So you can mix and match. The goal, the end goal is to make sure you are able to achieve the overall goal of, protecting your systems and your data.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much, Doc.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, everyone. Appreciate everybody's time. If there are no more questions, we're wrapping up for tonight. We are going to meet next week. Our next meeting next week is going to be our first Cyber Awareness Week. And for Cyber Awareness Month, we have a series of programs that we've laid out. So be on the lookout for it also as well. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a great weekend, everyone, and stay safe, especially for those in Georgia. Stay safe. We are going to meet next week. Have a great and wonderful weekend. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, Dr.
Bye. Bye.
Always in Oscar.